They laughed when the manager told me to move. Not quietly. Out loud. Right there in the lobby with everyone watching. He pointed at the floor like I was furniture that talked back. Said I was blocking important people. I apologized. I stepped aside. Phones came out. Someone whispered, "Who does she think she is?" I didn't answer. I just stood there while the insult hung in the air, heavy and public. Because sometimes the fastest way to win is to let them think they already have. I didn't argue, didn't explain. I thanked him and took the seat near the wall. From there, I could see everything. The smiles that vanished when the door closed, the jokes people told once they thought I was harmless. I listened. I noticed names, timelines, the way confidence makes people careless. The manager kept glancing at me, waiting for a reaction. He never got one. Silence makes bullies nervous. Still, I nodded, calm, like this was normal, like being minimized was routine. It wasn't. I was choosing it. Because when you stay quiet, you hear the truth spill out. And tonight, the truth was already leaking. They forgot about me faster than I expected. Once power decides you don't matter, you become part of the background, like a wall or a plant. Voices rose. Chairs shifted closer. Someone joked about how audits were just formalities, how inspectors never looked too closely if the right dinner was paid for. Another laughed and said rules only scare people without access. I kept my posture small, eyes lowered, like I was trying to not take space. A woman at the table complained about an application that was taking too long. The manager smirked and said delays make people desperate, and desperate people are easier to control. They nodded, satisfied. I noticed how casually cruelty showed up, like it was normal business language. Someone mentioned a date, then corrected himself. Another dropped a number, then waved it off like it didn't matter. It did. I repeated it in my head until it stuck. A second waiter passed by, younger, nervous. He hesitated before speaking, then thought better of it and walked away. No one noticed him either. That's how the room worked. You were visible only if you had leverage. I watched who interrupted whom, who stayed quiet when certain names were mentioned, who laughed a second too late. Patterns formed, connections revealed themselves without anyone drawing a diagram. I tilted my phone slightly, pretending to read, while the screen reflected faces leaning in, voices loosening. Confidence makes people sloppy. They spoke in fragments, trusting everyone there to understand the rest. I understood more than they realized. By the time the laughter settled, I knew exactly how this place ran and why they were so comfortable treating strangers like they were disposable. The waiter came back with the drinks, hands shaking. One glass slipped. It didn't break, but the sound was enough. The manager exploded, loud, personal. He threatened to make an example, said mistakes follow people forever. The room laughed again, uncomfortable but entertained. The waiter apologized, eyes down, whispering about rent and a sick mother. No one cared. I watched his future shrink in real time. That's the moment something changed. Not in the room, but in me. Disrespect is one thing. Destroying someone who can't fight back is another. I felt the line snap. I didn't move. I didn't speak. But I decided. And once that decision is made, everything after it is just timing. The longer the night went on, the looser their tongues became. One of them leaned forward and said the inspection last quarter had been a formality, that the report was written before anyone even showed up. He laughed like it was clever. Another chimed in, bragging about how a missing signature could delay a case for months, sometimes years, until people gave up. They called it efficiency. I called it intent. Someone mentioned an intern who'd taken the fall for a mistake that never should have been on their desk. The table went quiet for a half second. Then the manager waved it off, said interns were replaceable, said that's why they exist. I watched the reactions. No one disagreed. Silence is agreement in rooms like this. Dates were tossed out casually, then corrected, then laughed away. Numbers followed, small ones first, then bigger ones, each detail stacked neatly in my head. I adjusted my phone again. Still no one noticed. They were busy congratulating themselves. The manager leaned back and said knowing the right people meant never worrying about consequences. He repeated it, slower this time, like he wanted it remembered. So I remembered it, word for word. Because people misunderstand how accountability works. It doesn't crash in loudly. It accumulates quietly, piece by piece, until there's nowhere left to stand. By then, they were comfortable. Too comfortable. They spoke freely, assuming the room was sealed, assuming everyone present was either complicit or irrelevant. They were wrong on both counts. Confessions don't need pressure. They need permission. And they'd given themselves plenty. I stopped pretending to scroll. I stood up, slow enough that no one felt threatened. I sent one message. No explanation, no emotion. Then I walked past the manager and asked the waiter for water, by name. The room quieted, just a little. Power notices confidence before it understands it. The jokes died. Someone asked if I was leaving. I smiled and said I'd be right back. Outside, I made one call. Short, precise. When I returned, I took my seat again, calm as before. They relaxed. Big mistake. Because the moment you stop observing is the moment the process has already begun. The lobby doors opened again, this time with purpose. 2 people stepped in, badges visible, eyes already scanning. The manager straightened, confused, then pale. One of them asked for his name. I finally stood. I said it once, clearly, and handed over my phone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain the insults. I didn't need to. The recordings spoke for me. I looked at the table and told them who I was, why I'd been there, and who had the authority to listen. The room froze. Laughter disappeared. In 20 seconds, every assumption they'd made about me collapsed. They escorted the manager out first. No arguments, no raised voices. That's how real authority shows up. Quiet, efficient, final. Statements were taken on the spot. Phones that had been so eager to record earlier were suddenly face down on the table. People avoided eye contact, already rewriting the night in their heads. By morning, the lobby felt like nothing had happened. Systems don't collapse loudly. They correct themselves in silence. Weeks passed. Then months. Reviews turned into audits. Audits turned into suspensions. Licenses were placed under examination. Connections that once felt untouchable stopped returning calls. The jokes disappeared. So did the arrogance. The waiter filed his complaint, and this time it didn't vanish. His job stayed. His schedule improved. He stopped flinching when someone raised their voice. I never returned to that place. I didn't need to. Justice had a way of finishing the work once it started. I didn't give interviews. I didn't tell my side publicly. Power doesn't need applause. It needs records, witnesses, and patience. And when someone tells you to move aside long enough, eventually the system notices who's been standing still. If you stayed till the end, you understand why silence isn't weakness. This channel is for people who watch, remember, and wait. Subscribe, not for noise, but for stories that know how to finish.